Friday, everybody. It is a beautiful spring day here in Memphis, Tennessee, Central Standard Time. It's 12 noon. So if you're watching this live, send me some love and tell me where you're from. And also, it's an opportunity for you to ask questions that I will answer here live over what we're going over today. And then, if you're watching it later, please do hashtag Florida or hashtag Texas. I like knowing where everybody's from, who all's watching. And I love the fact that we have a lot of people that are watching from other countries. That's always a lot of fun. So send me some love. All right, so one of the first things we're going to go over today is again about, we're working with Better with Age, our Cerusing Wax, and also our Venetian Plaster and our Stencils. So there's a special bundle that you'll be getting some information about. We're going to announce our winner, but also you want to make sure to remember, if you want to know about the giveaways that we do every week, just go to the link below, whether you're on Instagram or Facebook, and you can register for that. And then we have a drawing every week that we give away free product that we show you how to do on these Finish Fridays. As I said last week, I'm so grateful for you tuning in. I love your faithfulness to wanting to know how to create beautiful finishes on to use on furniture and cabinetry and accessories. You're going to notice some change on our Instagram feed, especially. We're going to be showing primarily just finishes. So I'm in the process of putting together a VIP group that is going to be a closed Facebook group that I'm going to dig in a lot deeper and really be teaching you how to flip furniture and all the who's, what's about that. So if you have more questions about that, stay tuned. It's kind of exciting. All right, so one of the first things that we're going to do, I'm going to push this aside for just a second. I want to go over using plaster on furniture. Now, last week, you'll have to go back if you didn't see. Is there a problem? Last week there was a if you missed it, go back and watch this first segment. This is segment 2 on plaster, Better with Age, and Cerusing Wax, and the Stencils. So I'm going to kind of expect that you've already watched some of that. I'm not going to mix the plaster again. It's already mixed up, and it's just with water, and it's the consistency of sour cream. But here's an example that I showed you last week as far as doing the Better with Age first, and just kind of as a recap. Here's the Better with Age product that we use. Remember, this isn't a stain. This is just something that we brush on directly to the wood. You have to start with raw wood when you do this. This isn't something that you can put on an existing finish, but I'm going to give you a little information on that if you've got in a piece with an existing finish. So putting the Better with Age on top of raw wood, especially things like oak and cherry, walnuts that have a lot of tannins in them that it reactivates with, it turns into this beautiful gray dead color. It makes new wood look like it has sat out in the sun for 50 years, and that will happen in less than 10 minutes. You can hit it with a hairdryer, and it literally will dry in 30 seconds, and it looks just like this. I did this right before we went live. So I do this first as a foundation. You know, as I continue to teach you about learning about finishes, it's all about the layering process. The only way to be able to have a great looking finish is it's got to have depth. And that's going to mean from the base of it all the way up. And usually, if you think about with an antique may have been stained first. Maybe somebody enjoyed the life of that piece for many years. But then after that, maybe a new owner got it and they painted it. And then maybe it was painted green. And then after that, it got sold again and another owner got it and it was painted pink. So you start to see a little bit of the stain, and then you see a little bit of the pink, and you see a little bit of the green, and this layering. And that's what we're going for. We're going for a process of things that have layers and texture. So let's glance. When I talk about that, let's glance just a second at these finishes. If we could all be here together, we'd all be going, ooh, ah. Because what sells a piece of furniture? Yes, the utilitarian part of it will help, but guys, it's the finish. I was a furniture manufacturer for over 27 years, and I'm telling you, the more complicated the finish, the more money I could charge for the piece. So this is an example of more primarily milk paints. And I'll be showing this technique in my Old World finishing class, but this one right here is actually done with plasters. I'm going to show you how to work with this in just a minute. This was actually done with a chippy way of plasters. And you can even do embossing. I'm going to show you today how to use plaster and create an embossed look. If you were here with me, you could see this is raised. And so if I hold that for the camera, does that allow you to be able to see that just a little bit? Can you see that this is raised? It's not flat. And the way that you can get this is by using a Mylar stencil and our plaster. So, but I want you to be getting the depth of finishes. I want you to start dissecting finishes. When you look at them, I want you to be in your mind thinking, what was the first coat? What would the second coat be? What would the third coat be? So let's look at this one as an example. So the first coat would be the smallest amount primarily. So it started with a stain. I did the better with age. The second coat, are you seeing it? It's white. It was plaster. So here we go. Here's the steps. You've got raw wood. I did better with age. Then I did a coat of plaster. Remember, we went over this last week. And then what's on top? A darker color plaster. That way you've got layering. As you're pulling that away, as you're wearing it, it can look incredible. Because do you love this? Send me some love. If y'all love this finish, say, yes, I love this finish. Because I do too. I mean, having this on a really big chunky chest. And I'm gonna probably do a question and answer one time. Here, I can tell it's like the teacher in me starts coming up. I'm gonna teach you about finishes that go on certain pieces. Certain pieces, if they're more mid-century modern, you would not put this on a mid-century modern piece. A chunkier, heavier piece with drawers, a chest of drawers, even maybe kitchen cabinets. You could handle a piece like this, but you wouldn't put this on something that was very sleek and mid-century modern. You're smiling, Emily. What is somebody saying?
Everyone's saying, I love this finish. That looks awesome.
Good. I know. It's like sometimes when I go back and I watch the replays of them, I'm like, I want them to see it better. So I just want to make sure that I hold it in such a way that you're able to see it and the depth. So it gets close enough that you can say, wow, I love that. I love the depth of it. Okay, Instagram's over here, so I'm just going to hold it because I want you to be able to see the depth of it. Isn't that gorgeous? All right. So my first coat, I started with raw wood. Second, or as far as my first step, I did vintage wood better with age. And then I came on top of it with the plaster. Go back and watch that last week. Now I want to show you on a piece. I'll come back. I've actually got some plaster mixed up. Now, I love the fact that there was a question last week. I may need another one of these. There was a question last week. They were like, can you, what do I mix, what do I make the color in? Now if you see this plaster, and this is in the kit that we've put together for you, but this is always going to be white. But guess what, guys? You can mix my Toscana milk paint with the plaster. Yes! And it colors it, so you can make it any color you want. So, you know what? I need to show you that really quick. So, I know y'all are like, she goes off on these tangents. Yes, that would be great. She goes off on these tangents. So I'm going to take a little bit of this. I just want to show you. So I'm just taking a little bit of the plaster out of here. This plaster doesn't go bad, even after you mix it. But look, how I'll take just a little bit of milk paint. This is our Toscana milk paint. It's a totally different recipe than a lot of companies because I use pure pigments. If you were watching my crazy video earlier in the week, I was working in here in the test kitchen and making colors. Look at that. Now I've got blue plaster. Do you love it? I could even come back if I wanted a little bit darker color. I could add a little bit of black to it. But here's the deal, or a little gray. Look at that. Can you see? Can I get over that so that way you can see it? Now I've got a beautiful color plaster. Now here's the caveat, guys. If you're working on a piece of furniture, I want you to mix up one color to be able to do the whole piece. Because if you run out, unless you've measured it exactly, your color will never be the same. That's why a lot of people, when they would buy pieces of furniture, I had a serpentine commode specifically. And it was a really big seller for us. And it was done in a milk paint casein finish. And I would finish one of the pieces, and my creative staff that I had with us were incredible, and we were so proud of it, and we'd ship it. Somebody would look for, I remember one customer, they said, I've looked for 15 years to find another piece that was as beautiful as this, and I can't find it. So I'm going to break down, and I'm going to order another one to match it exactly. I'm going to send you the drawer and I want you to make another one. I'm like, I can't do it. It was like, it has to be done that day. And so as you're working with plasters and milk paints and stuff, make enough to be able to do that entire piece, because your color and your hand, how you feel that day, the temperature, all that is going to predicate what that finish is going to look like. All right, so I just wanted you to be able to see. That way now, all you have to do is add some water, make it into the consistency, stir it up, about the consistency of sour cream, and you're ready to go. So, are there any questions? Are we good? All right.
What is the shelf life for the Cerusing Wax?
Okay, so the question is, we're learning, thanks for the suggestions. What is the shelf life for the Cerusing Wax? Now, we're not working with the Cerusing Wax right this minute, but this is probably about 2 years. And if it gets a little thicker, you can add a little bit of clean slate to it if you want to and stir it up. Clean slate is, if you don't have it, it needs to be in your DIY pantry. This is what's crazy. Most people don't know this. That's our #1 selling product. Can you believe that? Because you've got to have it for every project. You can get wax. If you get too much wax on a project, you can use clean slate and get it right off. Yes?
Lisa asks, can you mix the plaster with other types of paint?
No, Lisa. Is that Lisa Hanson Presley? Okay, I know a Lisa Hanson Presley. So no, it needs to be with the milk paint. Here's the deal, and here's the risk you run. Trying to use other products that do not have the organic and the natural properties that these paints and things that I have put together for you, you're going to mess up your finish. They'll coagulate, and they won't hold together. You've got, the way this is done, they can all bind together because they're all natural. And even like a lot of companies, if you use other milk paints, they're synthetic pigments. They're not natural pigments that come from quarries. All of my pigments are natural pigments that come from quarries, so they work really well with the plaster, which is, remember, it's lime, it's calcium carbonate, and marble dust. So it's very simple ingredients, but you want to make sure that you use the same products. Yes?
Celine, is there a rule of thumb to go by to figure out the amount and size of the furniture?
Okay, so the question was from Celine. It was like, is there a rule of thumb to go by as far as the amount of maybe plaster that you're going to need for a piece of furniture? I would probably mix up at least a quart of plaster and a Toscana milk paint to be able to do an entire piece of furniture. Yes. So, and at least if you get one coat on it, then that way your color can be a little different on your second coat. Yes.
Michelle asks, what's the ratio for mixing plaster with milk paint?
Just to the color consistency that you want. That's it. Just for your color. There's not a ratio because the color is all that you're going for. It's going to work, the compound of it, and as far as it sticking and the durability and the wearability, all that type thing is already done in the formulation. So it's strictly for the color that you want it. All right, so here I'm going to take some of my plaster that I've mixed up. Thank you for showing me the love and being engaged with this. So I'm going to take my plaster, I'm going to put it on metal, when you're working on furniture like this, plaster it loves metal. It gets the molecules and things going in it to where it comes to life, and it will bring it up to a sheen. So I'm going directly on top of what I've already done plaster on, and a lot of people don't realize, guys, this plaster can be used in bathrooms, in showers, when there's an area where there's a lot of humidity. And it's very, very durable. So look how I'm just putting it directly on top of that white. And I'm going to come back. I'm going to take some of this off. One thing that's going to be hard for you to see on the camera is the fact that this hasn't dried yet. So as I start to scrape this off, you may not see the white underneath, but hopefully you will. But what's pretty about it, as it starts to dry down, you'll see that white underneath. Now right now, I'm working on a piece that was raw stained. Are you seeing it? Doesn't this look like it needs to go at a beach house? Do you love it? Gosh, it would look great on some planked walls. It's so funny, as I start to create finishes, I start envisioning where that can go. Don't you love that? We have the sweetest creative team here, and it's so funny when we do these, we get excited when we see what they do. Look at that! Guys, are you loving it? Now, here's the depth that I want you to start learning how to be able to dissect. I don't need that all the same. Look at that. Can you see that good? Now, you know, the fun thing is, this is gonna dry down. The blue's gonna go bluer, but the blue's also gonna be a little lighter. But that way I'll see that dark stain underneath. Remember, it was 1, 2, then I did the white, and then I did the blue on top. So you can layer it. Or, look at this one. I did this more solid. It's the same technique, but I pulled that through so I can see the underneath.
Maggie says your nails match.
My nails match, they do. Thought about it last night when I was having to get my nails. I was like, I can't show them how nasty my nails are. I gotta get them done. All right, so do you love this? This is gonna dry down so, so pretty. That would be gorgeous on a piece of furniture with some little white lacquered knobs. Oh, that would be so cute. All right, see, I still get excited about everything I do. Okay, all right, so now I'm gonna take one of the pieces that we had done earlier. Yes? Do I have something on my lips? Lipstick?
Plaster.
Plaster? Is it gone? Okay, thanks. My crew's looking out for me. All right, so now I wanna show you with this gray, can I hold that up with the light? Can you see that good now? Okay, so now let's dissect this again, just one more time for guys that may be just tuning in. So dissecting this finish, the first thing I did was I had raw wood. The second finish, second process or first process was actually better with age. And then I did white plaster, and then I did the gray plaster, just like I showed you. So now I want to add a detail. See how I got a little bit of dark gray in here showing? So it would be really pretty to stay monochromatic. Don't go crazy on me when you're doing this type thing. It's better to stay monochromatic, especially if you're trying to create more old world finishes on these pieces. So I'm going to lay down my stencil. And I've already mixed up a little bit of plaster earlier with, again, with some Toscana milk paint. And I'm going to put that here. And that way I could be creating this detail maybe on some drawers, maybe on an armoire. And if you want to get a raised effect, I'm going to do just a little bit here because of time. I'm realizing I'm running out of time. So let me lift this and show you. So see how you've got a little reverse tulip started that I could go down on a piece of furniture with that darker plaster. And as it dries, I'm going to allow it to dry completely like I did on this piece. And I'll come back and burnish it to where it's raised. That's how I showed that to you earlier. Or you could even do the plaster on pieces like this that are just stained. Isn't that gorgeous? Don't y'all love that? So you can have a lot of fun. It can be raised. It creates an element that can be really beautiful. Or if you don't want to do it in plaster, in a darker color, you can do it in a white plaster and then come back and gild on top of it. That's a whole other Finish Friday that I can show you how to gild. But I just wanted to show you how not only can you use the plaster for your finish like this, you can also use it to be able to create raised elements with the stencils that we have. All right, so a couple of last things that I want to show you. So I showed you this finish last week. Remember, as far as doing the better with age, again, we're talking about raw furniture. I have a piece right here that I did before we went live. And I mixed up just a little bit of milk paint. I did not add plaster to this. But you can come on top of this like this, painting with the grain. Now remember, when you're working with Toscana milk paints, they're going to dry almost 50% lighter. This is going to be a much lighter blue than this. But let's say when you're working on a piece of furniture, I'd like for you to take a drawer out. I want you to work on one section at a time. You're going to take a drawer out, or you're going to work on the top. You're going to work on the sides, and I usually lay my piece down as I'm working on it, or I have complete control over it. So after I've laid that on, before it dries, I want you to come back with some 4/0 steel wool like this, and I want you to kind of pull it through so you see that color underneath. Are you starting to see something? We're wanting to see multiple layers of colors. Here's where we're at. There's a lot of people out there that are all about painting a piece of furniture with a chalk paint, a chalk-based paint. And that's kind of a, it's an opaque finish. It covers it completely. And that's great. That's great for kitchen cabinets. It's great for things that you want to be able to change and you can glaze over it and that type of thing. But I'm wanting to take your level of connoisseurship up with your finishes. I want you to start looking at layers, how things can look more distressed naturally, how you can do chipping and layers of plaster in that finish. See how I've come back and burnished that. How you can do the embossing with the plaster. That's what I'm wanting to do. I'm wanting to raise your level of connoisseurship. But this is going to dry down. Guess what? It's going to look just like that. It's kind of surprising, isn't it? So when you want to be able to do finishes like that, that's all that is. But that was done on raw wood. Now, last but not least, I want to show you how to be able to work with something that's already that you want to paint over. So, as a rule, are there any questions? My students are okay? No questions. All right. Yes.
Can you add a mold if you want to?
You can add a mold if you want to. You know, I would be careful. The whole point of a mold is to be able to give yourself a raised element or a detail. You can get that from plaster. If you're familiar with chinoiserie, that's a whole other art history lesson about chinoiserie, which I won't go down that rabbit hole, but it was like a Pastiglia gesso, and it was built up, and then it was painted on top of, and it's beautiful, and it's classic, and it's coming back in style. But you can put your stencil down, and you can do a layer of plaster, and then you can do it again, and again, and again, and again, and so you can have it raised, not quite as much as a mold, but a lot. With stencils and plaster, just FYI, because that was done for literally hundreds of years by the Italians. Yes?
So Maggie asks, is it hard to pull the plaster off when the piece of furniture has curves and carvings?
Well, you wouldn't necessarily do it in the curves and carving. You're going to do it on a flatter surface area where you're going to want to be able to add your ornamentation. Yes. All right, so I want to show you, here is this little tray that was raw. So let's just pretend this was a piece of furniture that you have that's stained. So maybe you go to the antique mall this weekend or a garage sale or whatever, and you get a piece. You're going to need to paint it. I don't want you to put the plaster on first. All these finishes that I've been showing you were started raw, remember? So now, but if you want to be able to get a plaster look on a piece of furniture, you can. I just want you to prime it first with my one-step paint. So I think I have this here. So here's the one-step paint. This has a binding agent in it that allows you to put it on anything. So you can put it on melamine, you can put it on resin, plastic, glass, anything. So it acts as a great primer to be able to put the plaster on. And I will usually start with a white, like a ballet white, in our one-step paint. And so I'm talking about something totally different, guys. This is if you have an existing piece that you want to be able to put plaster on, don't put the plaster directly on top of the finish. You've got to put the one step on there first because it binds. That acts as a primer for the plaster, but it also can be the depth. What do we talk about? We talk about the depth of color in the layer. So this little tray was just painted with the ballet white one step. And I've got some plaster that we mixed up, and guess what? I'm going to put it directly on top of here. Is everybody with me? Does everybody understand? Send me some love if you understand. If you don't, ask a question, because that's why I do this. I want to make sure that you understand. All right, so I'm going to come back. In this instance, I'm going to use it. I'm going to paint a little bit of it on, like this. I'm getting in trouble with my time. But I can come back with this plaster. You're going to love the way it dries down. You want to make sure that you have it mixed up really good. So I'll kind of lather it on a little bit, get it everywhere. You know, when you're painting something with a brush and you've got it loaded up like this, in the art world, this is called a positive tool. So this is a positive application that I'm putting on. But then I want you to come back and I want you to use another brush. This is why I love working with my chip brushes. They're about double the thickness of most chip brushes. Now I want you to use a clean, dry brush, and now this is going to become a negative tool. we're gonna come back and we're gonna take it off. Is everybody with me? So I'm gonna take some off, and I'm gonna start to pull that white through just a little bit. Is everybody having fun?
Yeah, is that the plaster that you mixed earlier?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Jamie said, is that the plaster mixed with the colored milk paint?
Yes, it is. It is. So I'm going to come back with one of my little tools. You need some that are a little bit not quite as coarse. And I'm going to take off some excess, just a little bit. And
Maggie
pull some of that
asked,
white through. Yes?
Can you do this process on tiles?
You know, Maggie, I don't know that I would suggest I wouldn't do plaster on tiles. I don't think I would. I think, now I love lacquer on tiles, but I would not do plaster on tiles. Okay, so do you see how I'm kind of thinning this through and I'm pulling it? Now when I paint plaster on like this, it'll have a tendency to be kind of grainy. Are you noticing how I'm finessing? Look how I'm kind of finessing it to where I'm barely touching it, so it's making it a little smoother and not as coarse. And then if I want to, I could come back, look, while it's wet, can you see that? And I'm just gonna pull some of that white out. Is everybody with me? Look at that. You're gonna love this when this dries down. Is everybody able to kind of see it? Try to hold it up. This plaster is gonna dry down to such a gorgeous color, and you're gonna love this dead, beautiful finish on it. Nothing will look this original and beautiful like working with this plaster and this milk paint on top of this piece. So I'll come back just a little bit and work on my softening this center. So I'll come back the opposite direction. Look, can you see what that did? What did that just do? Took the graininess out to kind of go this direction. All right, so that kind of gives you an idea. I'll finish it. I actually may come back and add just a little bit of leaf, some gold leaf around this edge, just really, really soft. It'll make it so pretty, but it allows you to be able to have the technique to get an existing piece of furniture that might have it might be made out of Formica. It might have a stained finish on it. Just put the one step on there first, and then mix up your plaster with some milk paint, and then you can get a beautiful finish like this. I hope you've enjoyed today. I hope it was something that you've not ever seen before, or that you're able to really build your techniques of painted finishes. If you're not part of our before and after group, please join, because you will be encouraged, you'll be informed, because there's so many great people doing projects, and they want to be able to share. One, they want to enjoy the bragging rights, and two, they want to share their techniques and their successes with you, because we're all in this together. We want to rescue the 28 million tons of furniture we're throwing away in the United States every 12 months. Have a great weekend, guys. Let's go to estate sales. Let's go to tag sales and do hashtag Amy Howard Home and show me what you got. Have a great weekend.